on the trap check that Chairman Rob came up when you were discussing the 24-hour or the calendar day. However, I think calendar day is still too short, so I would be in favor of 2 calendar days.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Wallace?
I'm just going to throw it out there as well, too, that, you know, the private property is the important part to me because I know that there's a lot of ag in this area. And we've already been down this road of having to try and exempt something after the legislature says, well, you have to do this. And that's one of my bigger concerns is the private property owners and being able to protect their own private property. And the 2 calendar days, I could probably do the 2 calendar days in private property. That helps me, but I'm uncomfortable with the area as to trying to shrink it down because we had the discussion earlier about federal public lands and how much there is in there. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it enough to make that judgment, but I don't want to box people out of it. I mean, I get the Las Vegas area, the density of people in that area, but the density in this area doesn't, to me, isn't even in the same realm. And that's where I'm having more of an issue with the map in this area. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'm open to listen to some motions. Do I have anything in particular that would make me happy? I can't spit that out and say, yeah, this is what I want. You know, I wish I could, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Mike?
First of all, I'm disadvantaged because I am not that familiar with these areas, but it seems to me that if all we're doing is talking about dropping 192, we still have 196 and 194. We're basically placing entire units, and then it looks like part of 195 into this area. And when I compare that to my hometown of Las Vegas, where we are restricting, you know, where I'm thinking I'm going to end up is on just the no shoot zone. This seems much more expansive than that, and so I, you know, it just as a general proposition, feel very uncomfortable about it. You know, would seem to be a lot of federal public land in these areas. I'm looking at some wilderness hashes, and so I'm really not comfortable with that. However, you know, Commissioner Drew did, you know, indicate that he was. Well, I think by inference that he was okay with 196, 194, and the part of 195, and I maybe could, you know, hear some additional discussion on that. But I think as a general proposition, I'm still uncomfortable with even that area.
196 is a virtual mountain bike course with joggers, walkers, and mountain bikers all over it. It's soft dirt that allows for trails to be made easy. It's not rocky terrain. It's very easy terrain to get around in. It's congested. 194, if there was a better way to carve out some of the top of the mountain, I would have done it. But most of it's snowbound during the trapping season. It's wilderness, but it's high-use wilderness, extremely high-use wilderness. So we've done the setbacks on the trails already. So if you guys think the setbacks on the trails suffice, and you're wondering about the map, I don't know how else to come up with a map. So maybe somebody might want to throw a motion we don't do anything in northern Nevada and see where that lands. Commissioner McBeth.
During the break, I was asking a question with one of the commissioners, trying to get a better understanding if the committee had considered just the areas that we made a decision with respect to AB 226. It seems, and so I guess the question would be in my mind, are the AB 226 areas, do they meet the definition of populated and in close proximity already? Have we already done this?
226 only addressed Washoe and Clark County, did not address Douglas or Carson City.
Okay.
And if I recall, 226 was specific to residents.
Yeah.
In Washoe County, I want to say, and there was some stuff with city limits, I want to say. But I don't think we discussed any more what might be more considered heavily used areas versus populated areas. It was pretty specific to populated areas in 196, 194, and probably to some extent 021 and 022.
And I will tell you that the area just north of the Virginia City and 195 there, Virginia City Highway, the Geiger Grade Highway, I suspect that there's quite a bit of trapping up in some of that area. And there is, there are houses up in there. I know it seems fairly remote, but there's quite a few houses up in that area, and I know that there have been issues. I don't know that we've heard about them right here, but I do know people that live up there that have shared with me experiences that they prefer to not have. And I wouldn't. I just want there to be an awareness that there are houses, there's residences up in there.
It's called the Virginia City Highlands, and one thing about Story County and Unit 195, I believe that 95% of Story County is in private hands. It's the most privately held county by far in the state of Nevada. It is, I believe it's 95, 96% privately held.
So again, I kind of throw it out. I know everybody's trying to absorb, and the commission hasn't had the same opportunities that the committee has had to really process, and it's tough. It's really tough. And I know that there's anxiety to do something, and that there or if there's not, then we should have a motion out on the table and see where we stand with that. If I don't know that that's the timing is right to force something like that out, but to see if people, if we as a commission believe something needs to be done. I mean, we can vote to not do anything too, but maybe one of the considerations is that we consider other ways of bringing some forward. And if we do go down that path, I would expect some very specific guidance from the commission. Very specific.
Commissioner Moray?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in my consideration here, we have 3 committee members that are familiar with this area.
Oh, sorry.
In my consideration of what we're discussing here, we have 3 committee members that are familiar with this area. What I'm hearing from you, Jeremy, is that you're not comfortable with the map. Jack and Dave, you are comfortable with the map.
For different reasons, though, remember that.
I'll answer that. Am I comfortable with what it excludes to help out in the situation that we've been dealt with? Yes. Do I think it includes areas that I would consider remote and not high use? Yes. Having a different way to depict that on a map, that's the issue. The only way to make it enforceable make it so a trapper doesn't get it just, there's not clear boundaries. It was tough to define, and that's why it's defined the way it is.
Commissioner Drew?
I don't know if I even want to go here because Commissioner Rob and I will get in an argument over it, but one of the things that we did in the south is we talked about the possibility of the Sloan Canyon NCA, and we actually exempted one of the wilderness areas, and I can't remember which it is, so that would be one option for 194. But I think I would go back to what David mentioned, and if that's the case, there may be a specific recommendation to look at any high-use areas for offsets if we did that, potentially. But I guess my issue is fundamentally, I haven't been 100% comfortable that we're not going to exacerbate something by going to any map. So if you're looking at me to throw out a motion for a map, it may not come because I'm not completely comfortable, and I think the members of the committee know that. I kind of told you what would resolve some of my discomfort, but I don't know if I'd get it all the way down to the point where I'd be willing to vote for it. That probably doesn't help you, but
And the 2 calendar day would not do that.
I think it would help alleviate the concern I have, in addition to the exemption for a box or a cage trap.
An exemption for private property.
We already have that. That's the committee's recommendation. And dropping 192.
Okay, so let me ask a question for Dagny. Is the way we're agendized and with the support material, does that allow us the opportunity to have that discussion? Commissioner Drew is kind of touching base on it.
And I guess in following up to that, my understanding is we're providing direction for staff to develop a regulation. We aren't making any final decisions. So I guess in a sense, we're making the recommendation for how to go forward as a commission.
Correct, and I think you're okay as far as the way you're agendized and the direction you're going.
Because we're not adopting anything. We're just moving something from here to the next phase.
Commissioner McBeth.
To maybe help move this along, I think after listening to this discussion, and I really appreciate explaining the high-use areas, and I understand Chairman Rob's comment with the regard to the problem of drawing the map, and so as maybe this might help. I think where I'm at after listening to all this is that if we go with 196, 194, and that portion of 195 in 2 calendar days, I think I can support that.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Before you do,
And with the other stipulations that Commissioner Drew mentioned with regard to the box trap and whatever else it was.
so I guess Commissioner McBeth, I think the intent of 1 calendar day was to provide some wiggle room. I think if we go to 2 calendar days, I almost think we're better with 48 hours, just to be consistent, like you had started off with, because there's not as much need for the wiggle room part of that, as there might be with 24-hour versus 1 calendar day. I guess just from a consistency standpoint, that, in my mind, 48 works better.
Okay, and if we're looking for wiggle room, I'm going against my own thought process here, but if you're looking at 2 days, it's 2 days, and if I check a trap today at 4, and I know in 48 hours I have to be there again, I have to be there at 3:30, and then in 48 hours from then I have to be there at 3 o'clock. So you're going to get creep throughout your time. So what it's going to do is force an individual, if he's working, to go every day for a time and then every other day because you're going to get that creep. That's when you lock it down in hours, that guy he can't get off of work and be there at 5:30 every day because he risks being late. So I think there's a whole lot more flexibility in a 2 calendar day scenario, so you don't get that time creep going backwards. And that's why I came up with the calendar day to begin with. But if you're going 48 hours, every other day they're going to have to check it in 24 hours just to stay legal for the following day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and really, it's the smaller of my issues, and given the fact that it's going to go back out through the whole process again,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I'm just throwing it out for discussion at this point.
Commissioner Lane?
I guess I'm concerned because it seems to me that 2 calendar days is going to be kind of a law enforcement nightmare. And I understand your issue, but I would think that 48 hours is a lot cleaner way to go. And that would go I've always had a little bit of concern that we have 96 hours and then 1 calendar day. It seems to me if we're going to keep, the 96 hours idea, that we ought to try to keep it in hours. I don't care if you go, I guess I do care if you go above 48 hours, but I do have a problem with 2 calendar days.
Okay. Is somebody going to make a motion, and then we'll see where we land? Commissioner McBeth?
I'm going to make a motion to approve a map that includes units 196, 194, and that portion of 195 depicted in the pink, excluding unit 192, and that the time period be 2 calendar days.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner Drew?
So I know we talked about this, Mike, and I'm trying to figure out where to put this. Where are you in terms of exempting box or cage traps on that, and where are you on exempting the Mount Rose Wilderness area?
I thought I heard that even though it's a wilderness area, it was a high-use wilderness area. And so I'm taking that into account in the 2 calendar day piece, I guess is my thought process. And I'm not sure I quite understand the box trap issue, but if you want to explain it to me, I'm probably okay with it, but I probably need just a little bit of explanation.
Yeah, I guess where I'm at on that,
If they're in a box trap, they're not injured, and therefore a longer period of time is okay? What?
no, we've already had that discussion. I mean, we're in my mind, we're splitting hairs. You made the statement early on that what's the difference in this area versus another area in terms of kind of that aspect. I guess what I'm looking at from a box or a cage trap is I think what we're trying to do here, and you just mentioned it in saying that Mount Rose is a high use area, is we're trying to reduce the potential for conflict. My concern is that by doing this, we may actually increase that because of the use of instant kill traps. And so to alleviate that, I'm thinking a box or a cage trap might be a better way. At least it gives more than one option, because really what we're down to is how often how often you have to check a leg hold. See what I'm
Okay,
saying? Maybe you can
Okay, so
explain
this,
it better.
what we're
because you-
doing, the rule, the motion just dealt with was leg hold traps, right?
Yes.
And so you're exempting
No,
Yeah, all
included
traps.
trapping.
Traps.
all traps,
The way it was made,
right?
with the exception of those
when-
that cause instant death, which is an NRS that we can't
Right.
touch anyway.
Okay, and so, but by exempting box or cage traps, what is going to be the rule for box or cage traps?
96.
It would divert to, and that's,
Okay, I'm okay with that, yes.
but here's where those different thoughts roll in, because I look at the application of the box or cage trap as a little differently. It's being provided as an incentive to stay away from the instant kill. Okay, but I'm looking at it as if it's required. So you have in box or cage, you have live traps, and you have a shortened visitation frequency of 48 hours. Then that gets us out of that realm of having to worry about instant kill traps, which is part of our conflict problem in my mind. That's because I think conflict's part of the issue, and By encouraging people to use something other than an instant kill, we reduce the impacts due to conflict. That's how I look at using it. See, so there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and that's where I'm looking at it. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Commissioner Bliss.
Commissioner Macbeth, in your motion, you said to remove unit 192, but do we need to state in that motion that unit will go back to 96 hours?
I think that'd be a subsequent.
Not yet, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Did the second,
Commissioner.
because I accepted the boxer cage strap, did you accept that? Yes.
Okay, the boxer cage accepted. Commissioner Lane?
So could we repeat what my understanding is? We're looking at everything with the exception of 192. We're including box or cage traps under the 2 calendar day period. Is that correct?
Correct.
No. She's asking if the boxer cage traps would have to be checked in 48 hours.
No.
No, they would have to be checked in 96. And that's why I can't support the motion. It's real, I know it's splitting hairs, but it's just where we're at.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. It's Macbeth, Wallace, Morai, Rob. Bliss. Nays?
Nay.
Drew? McNinch? Lane?
Now it's gonna look like Jeremy's on our, see, it's just the dynamics, it's unbelievable.
You changed teams, me and you
It really
changed
is
teams.
unbelievable. You'll be seeing emails about how he flipped on everybody.
Okay, so that's Northern Nevada.
Whoa. So the only, I think what we're missing is those portions of Unit 2, 19, and 29 that
And,
weren't just encompassed in that map. And so,
and 192.
yeah, I'll take a stab at, so I would move that those units and portions of units 19, 2, and 29 that were not defined in relation to heavily used or populated revert to the current regulation of 96-hour visitation.
And I'll second that, even though I'm gonna vote probably against it, because but I think it's real important that we keep that,
Yeah.
that it's clean. And
Okay.
that makes sense.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, same vote as last time.
Although I support the fact that it's.
Okay, we're moving to Southern Nevada. Any discussion on Southern Nevada before somebody throws a motion? Because once somebody throws a motion, we're going to have plenty of discussion. I'll make the original motion and see where it goes. I move that we use the same 48-hour or calendar day, 2 calendar day language that we just did for Northern Nevada, and include everything on the map approved by the committee in Las Vegas, for Las Vegas area. Motion dies for lack of a second. Anybody else got one that we can get going?
Commissioner Macbeth, you started off
Yeah, I would,
with the recommendation that maybe we could start with.
then what I would propose is that we go 2 calendar days on the illegal firearms discharge area, which is the area depicted in the yellow line on the map.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Macbeth, second by Commissioner Morai. Any further discussion?
Can I
Commissioner
make
Drew.
a clarification on that? In the committee, we made sure that the intent was the illegal firearm discharge area as depicted on the map as of this date. That way, if that boundary changes, it wouldn't automatically change that regulations. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So if that's implicit in the motion,
I'll accept that as a clarification.
Commissioner Lane?
What about the box traps? Are we including that as well, since you included it in the other motion? I'm just asking the question.
The same language.
Yeah, same language with box traps as well. I'll accept that.
Same on the second.
Okay, the second, it's the same language we used in the north. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
nay.
I was a little late on my hand.
Counting.
Same vote.
Okay, same vote as last time.
I thought you were gonna count.
I'm sorry. Does anybody else have anything to include in Southern Nevada?
Yeah, I think we need it. So I'll make a motion that in those areas, the hunt wildlife management areas, 26 and 28, that were not specifically included in the motion regarding the illegal fire discharge area, that those be considered for, that those be 96-hour visitation frequency.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner McNish, second by Commissioner Drew. And I'm not going to support the motion for one reason. We have addressed Kyle and Lee Canyon and that area with trail setbacks and setbacks from residents. We did not address Coal Creek. So I went up there. I've been in Kyle and Lee Canyon, see the number of residents, see the usage. I went into Coal Creek the other day, and I do believe it should be afforded some type of setback. I would like to encompass houses and camping areas in the Coal Creek area as a potential setback for the 2 calendar day set trap check time.
So I guess my question, Commissioner Rob, having seen the area, does it make sense to use the 2 calendar day time, or does it make sense to do an offset similar to what we did under 226?
It makes more sense to do something like we did under 226, but it would make much more sense to do something like 226.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. That's how you need to resolve Coal Creek.
Without a doubt, that's our best avenue. But I'm not going to support the motion because it does not afford any protection for Coal Creek, and I want to make that point. So I won't be supporting the motion because there is no protection of Coal Creek. And I don't know how to include that in the motion that would say we're going to afford Coal Creek any protection, and I accept this map. So that's why I'm not going to support the motion. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, could we restate that motion?
Yeah, I'm not sure I quite understand.
Yeah, the motion was simply to incorporate those areas